As we have seen, one of the key building blocks of Iceland tourism strategy is to narrow its focus on a more reduced number of target segments. Segments like affluent adventurers, older relaxers, emerging market explorers, city breakers, or what we call MICE, which is tourism for incentives and conventions. Basically, to do this, what Iceland needs to do is build itself as a destination for each of these segments. And this is basically done through four key things. Number one is to promote itself in a specific way for each of these segments, basically using messages that resonate with the likes, with the interests, with the requirements of these segments. Number two is develop products that again are targeted, are tailored to the specific needs and likes of these segments. Number three, build the infrastructure that will enable visitors to easily and affordably reach the attractions, different tourism sites. And number four, but not because of this less relevant, ensure that sustainability and site conservation are at the top of the agenda throughout this whole process. Let me go into a little bit of more detail on what I mean by each of these points, and I'm going to focus on a couple of them. Let me start with develop product. What do we mean by this? Basically, it's a two-step process where first different people, different constituencies around Iceland brainstorm, think, come up with ideas about potential attractions. As you can imagine, there are probably many more ideas than funds or resources to be developing all of this. So there needs to be a second step, which is basically taking these ideas through a selection process where each of them is ranked along a number of dimensions. Things like fit with the overall vision, appeal to the specific segments that we're talking about, proximity to other sites, accessibility, or product or site differentiation are quite relevant. Let me illustrate this with one particular example. Let's assume that we have a glacier that is around 3 hours drive from Reykjavik, and within this glacier we already have a typical ice walk and a tour around the lake in a boat. Additional activities that could be built or attractions that could be built are an ice cave or a glacier museum or a standalone viewing platforms, with panoramic views. Now let me focus on one of these, for example, the ice cave. Ice cave would be extremely interesting and attractive for some of these segments, particularly the affluent adventurers, because it's something that is quite unusual. There are many glaciers that can be visited in North America and in Europe, but few of them provide the opportunity of experiencing an ice cave firsthand. So it's unique, it's differentiated, it's very close to the existing attractions, so it will be easy to visit, and as a result will most likely enhance the attractiveness of the overall glacier as a destination, while at the same time creating a specific attraction for some of the specific segments. I would like now to focus on another of the four elements of building the destination, and that is site conservation. As I mentioned before, it is of paramount importance for the future of tourism in Iceland. There are a number of mechanisms, of rules that can be put in place in Iceland and that are being used in other destinations that are also making strong efforts to preserve their natural environment. Our first priority will be to manage visitor flow to and around sites. There are very good examples out there, and I think the case of the Milford Track in New Zealand is a great example of how making hikers only hiking in one direction has both helped preserve the environment surrounding the track as well as enhanced the perception of hikers that by going only in one direction are less likely to encounter other hikers on the track and therefore feel more isolated. there are multiple mechanisms, and we suggest that these are the first priority. However, there might be cases in the longer term where there is a requirement to restrict visitor numbers. Again, there are multiple ways in which this can be done without drastically or significantly reducing the total number of visitors. Having time bans and distributing visitors throughout the day, imposing quotas on the different tour operators, having a system of pre-booking to ensure a proper distribution throughout the year are all mechanisms that can be used to preserve the experience of Iceland without significantly hurting the number of visitors. All in all, building the destination will probably require significant investments, and that will be the subject of our next video.